After taking my longest hiatus from making videos ever, I'm in the mood to talk about Futurama. It's one of my favorite animated series, sparking my love of science fiction and melodramatic music montages.
I will wait for you. Don't you forget about me.
This one is sad because the Beastie Boys sound like they were given a random list of character names and hadn't seen the show.
From my man, Dr. Zoidberg. Yeah, I'd like to personal shout out to Leela. Right.
Whether or not the brand new run on Hulu is a worthy successor, I'm looking forward to it just to see new episodes as they premiere. The Simpsons crossover is actually what motivated me to start watching, and a month later, I got the complete series on DVD. What I didn't realize was that this was actually the intended way to watch Futurama. Many cartoons and network shows have a production order and a broadcast order for episodes, and those can slightly differ. Mostly when channels air episodes out of order, maybe for a holiday or special event, or because others aren't finished yet. When Futurama started being released on home video, it followed the production order. Unlike other Fox animated sitcoms from this era, Fox aired the 4 seasons produced for the network as 5 broadcast seasons, which is why the DVDs are labeled as volumes. However, the broadcast order is how every current streaming service and digital platform presents the series, with the new episodes being dropped on Hulu as Season 11 and presumably Disney Plus internationally. That's obviously going to become the default way to watch the series, and I think it's the worst way to watch the series. It is a hassle to stick to the production order, like it's not ideal to load in a new disc after binging 4 to 7 episodes, or skip around a streamer's autoplay feature, but I'm going to walk you through why it will improve your Futurama experience, one increasingly pedantic issue at a time.
Change places!
Futurama returned to TV with a 4-year run on Comedy Central, airing as seasons 7, 8, 9, and 10. However, these were actually 2 26-episode seasons, numbers 6 and 7, split into 2 13-episode halves, commonly labeled by fans as 6A, 6B, 7A, and 7B. The cable channel had to scale back production costs, like fewer writers and no live orchestral score, so I'm sure this was the cheaper alternative to producing a traditional 22-episode network season. I know that nowadays, airing episodes in batches can mess with a solid schedule, confuse consumers, and means that creatives don't get a chance to negotiate their contract with the production of a new season order. For more information on why this is bad, let the writer's strike consume your Twitter feed like it did for me. The only upside was for viewers, as Futurama had a pretty consistent schedule during this era, airing throughout the summer with no hiatuses. The Futurama Holiday Special in Season 6A was the only exception, but it didn't mess up the broadcast order. Instead, Comedy Central moved episodes around throughout the rest of their run. Sometimes I don't know what they were doing, like only the last 3 episodes in Season 6B lined up with the production order. I asked lore master Johnny Two Cellos about this and he had no idea, but it was completely uncalled for how he swore a swear at me. I think we should take away both of his cellos as punishment.
Johnny!
No. For the premieres and finales of each batch, the channel tried to choose the most exciting episodes, misplacing a few in each season so 2 could air back-to-back. Writer Patrick Roan explained why an episode like 31st Century Fox aired at the end of Season 7A.
This episode, which is numbered, 7ACV? 11 is airing after 7ACV 12, which aired last week.
Because it's lucky.
I will now reveal the answer. The indication was from Comedy Central that they wanted to promote this episode during our season finale because Patrick Stewart was in it, which is all well and good, except for the fact that I've now seen a number of commercials, and they don't mention the fact that Patrick Stewart is in this episode.
Well, it was a good idea.
Honestly, you'll be fine if you watch this chunk of the series in broadcast order. It's just a tad annoying that it bloats the season count by 2. This order may skew your overall thoughts on a season. Like, I think broadcast Season 8 gets off to a rocky start and doesn't recover for a while, because the 4 best episodes are at its very end. But the show is episodic, so besides a few status quo changes, it doesn't matter how you watch the Comedy Central run. It's a good thing Futurama wasn't as continuity-driven when this airing order got screwed up, and everything went as planned.
Well, bite my shiny metal! Oh no!
Dwight Conrad is Hermes' son and Hubert Farnsworth's best friend. They like pulling pranks together and were both expelled from boarding school. Dwight is also a great accountant and likes to play on his original Game Boy, a 113-year-old device. This is how Dwight is introduced in production order. In airing order, Dwight is introduced as a munchkin in Leela's Wizard of Oz themed fantasy sequence. Technically, the delay of Dwight's intended debut in The Root of All Evil was a production issue instead of a broadcast issue, according to the commentary.
Bumper Robinson, the actor who plays Dwight, Hermie's son in this episode, went to China in the middle of the production of this episode to do a movie, and he came back about 10 months later, so we couldn't change any of the lines or anything until then.
Wow. Thanks, Bumper.
However, when Futurama originally premiered on Fox, it was mistreated by the network, being barely advertised, moved around the schedule, preempted by sporting events, and yes, aired out of order. The 4 seasons produced for the network were aired as 5, and episodes were bumped up and down, sometimes tied to holidays like Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, and St. Patrick's Day. Also, the semi-4th of July themed episode aired 3 days before Christmas.
Anyone who laughs is a communist.
The only improvement I think you get out of following the broadcast order early on is that you could argue these season finales are better. They've got a flashy guest star, high-concept gimmick, or are just a better episode. By far the most unusual holdover was A Tale of Two Santas.
This was supposed to air in December 2000. Fox wouldn't let us do it because I had written an episode the previous year for December 1999 where Santa came and terrorized Earth, and I guess they got like 3 complaint letters from people whose kids were traumatized or something. So then, Bill, what happened when we wrote this episode?
Well, we decided to do another episode featuring the robotic Santa Claus. We worked on the story and ran it by Fox, and they said, well, don't do this story. We went ahead and wrote it anyways. I wrote it. We presented it to them, and they said, we're not going to air it. Then finally, they said they would air it, but at a later time when children aren't watching.
David X Cohen would address this controversy in a secret bonus introduction to the episode on the Volume 3 DVD, discussing its writer, Bill Odenkirk.
Bill Odenkirk single-handedly sunk this episode, and that's why I now ask that everyone raise a glass and toast the chances of lightning striking Bill's house and destroying it. To hell with you, Bill Odenkirk.
Bill Odenkirk wrote 3 more episodes. Futurama had a unique approach to continuity, where lore hinted at in the pilot wouldn't be revealed until the 4th season. The broadcast order doesn't ruin any of these revelations, but it does hurt the episodes that foreshadow and build off them. One thing I really like about how this show handles the introduction of Leela's parents is that it takes 2 episodes for them to reappear in Less Than Hero, and then 5 more in Teenage Mutant Leela's Hurdles. It shows that Leela wants her folks to be a part of her life, welcoming them into this world and opening the doors for stories about Leela's upbringing. You know how many episodes are in between the first 2 appearances of Leela's parents in broadcast order? 12. 12! And these 2 episodes were placed right next to each other too. In the 11 months between their first 2 appearances, a Leela of her own premiered. That's the one where she becomes the first female Major League Learns Ball player.
Why is your number 7 8s?
All the whole numbers have been retired.
Hey, that's a pretty big deal for Leela. Seems like something she'd share with her parents that she was just reunited with. Except that doesn't happen. Those episodes were produced in 2 separate seasons. I'm not saying that every single Leela story post Leela's homeworld needed to feature her folks, but airing these episodes out of order raises questions that were never supposed to exist.
Sometimes, when I'm lonely, I look up at the sky and I get this feeling that somewhere, on some unknown planet circling a distant star, my parents are up there, looking down on me.
Having huge gaps between reminders of status quo changing surprises also hurts moments that were meant to foreshadow them. In The Why of Fry, Fry learns that on December 31st, 1999, Nibbler was the one that pushed Fry into the cryogenic chamber, kicking off the events of Futurama. You can actually see Nibbler's shadow when this happens in the pilot. But in Why of Fry, Fry goes back in time and chooses to freeze himself. This changes the original shot of the shadows, which appears a few episodes earlier in Jurassic Park. There, we also see Fry get frozen, complete with a quick glimpse of Nibbler hiding in a trash can. I love this attention to detail in shaping what's essentially Fry's backstory. Jurassic Park and The Why of Fry were only made 3 episodes apart, so you could easily make the connection if you're paying attention. And they aired these 5 months apart.
I can't believe how fat I look.
The gap in the broadcast order is only 6 episodes, but it's still worth noting. Maybe I should have just titled this section, Complaining About Fox's 5th Season. Maybe I did in the timestamps after publishing this video. I know that these callbacks and character returns can still work with the botched order, but you lose some of the excitement I had over discovering how cohesive these aspects of Season 4 felt. As I watched it for the first time on DVD, you can tell Fox had it out for Futurama when the penultimate episode they premiered was called Bender Should Not Be Allowed on Television.
Woo! And try this, kids at home.
I'm sure by this point, some of y'all that watch the series on Netflix or Hulu for the first time don't care about any of these ordering issues I'm laying out. However, if you're streaming Futurama, you actually haven't seen all of Futurama. I'm not talking about the Lost Adventure video game cutscene compilation or the full Everyone Loves Hypnotoad episode, although I personally consider the latter require viewing. To convince you, here's my favorite scene. Production Season 5, or Broadcast Season 6, was the first after cancellation on Fox. Created to be 4 88-minute straight-to-DVD movies that could then be chopped up and syndicated as 4 individual episodes on Comedy Central. This is why the season is suddenly formatted to have 4-episode arcs under the same name. If you've ever wondered why there's establishing shots between scenes that take place in the same location, it's because they put a commercial break there. Now the TV/streaming versions of this season were edited to include a bit of new content. There's new title captions and uniquely animated previously on recap transitions.
Previously on Futurama.
Nice. The final film, Into the Wild Green Yonder, actually has unique to be continued outros instead of just having it fade on screen.
Bender?
All 2 tons of me. And if you think that's shocking, wait till you see
Tune in next time on Futurama.
The weirdest inclusion is a 20-second commercial in Bender's big score after the first act of Part 1, tying into a running gag about a powder made from grinded-up executives.
Only Torgos packs the power of 5 highly paid television executives into every can for maximum odor absorption.
I guess it wouldn't have made sense to drop this in the middle of a feature.
When your toilet smells like feces from some disgusting species, make it take a powder with Torgos.
Plenty of these editions have been archived online and are easily accessible, but if you don't own the movies digitally or their DVDs, you're missing out on a lot of content cut out to make the syndicated editions fit for broadcast. Many music cues, establishing shots, montages, and quick gags have been edited down or removed entirely.
Yo, you need any girders bent? I know a guy.
It would be boring to go over everything that's missing, so let's look at a random episode as an example. The Beast with a Billion Backs Part 2. The syndicated version is 20 minutes and 31 seconds long, not including the intro or credits, starting with Bender in the hospital and ending with Fry coming face to face with Yivo. In the film version, this sequence is 21 minutes and 41 seconds, 1 minute and 10 seconds longer. I can't believe I had to do math in a Futurama video.
Oh, hell!
In terms of what was left out, they removed a little dialogue between Calculon and his plastic surgeon, Fry's breakup montage, Pazuzu attacking the White House guards, and Calculon talking to his judge, who I'm now learning is named Judge Whitey. The episode still functions without these scenes, but now there's a weird cut to the plastic surgeon, it's harder to track Fry's emotional state, Farnsworth and Wernstrom just appear in the White House, and Calculon's scene with Bender ends more abruptly.
Ordinarily, to see acting like that, you'd have to sit through a tampon commercial. That fulfills my community service, right?
Charges of running me over are hereby dismissed. Ow.
Ordinarily, to see acting like that, you'd have to sit through a tampon commercial.
These edits really mess with the pacing of the story and the flow of the humor, and you're just generally getting less content. In general, it's extremely anti-consumer for the most accessible versions of these movies to be edited for time. Now I know how people that watch 90s Simpsons and Syndication felt.
You're missing the jokes.
Although similarly to that fake commercial, I get why some moments were taken out.
I got a part in a fancy DVD movie. It's only one line, but I'm gonna ham it up like you wouldn't believe.
In summary, if you're streaming Futurama, seasons 1 through 5 are actually 4 seasons, and watching them in production order will enhance the continuity and payoffs. Season 6's 4-parters leave out material available in the film versions, and seasons 7 through 10 are actually 2 seasons that are just ordered in a weird way.
I get it!
Even if you ignore the production order entirely, that doesn't make your viewing less valid than mine. You can watch it however you want. I recommend a no episodes that poorly commentate on gender roles run. But if you're gonna binge the series from start to finish, I think it's worth doing it the way the creators intended. I've included a link to a helpful list by a Reddit user, stay with me, named MattTheTubaGuy if you want to try out this order for yourself. You can look at it as a different, more cohesive way to experience these episodes. Fortunately, the DVDs are still being reprinted, and I covered all their different variations a few years back. But for the average consumer, it's the more expensive and less appealing option next to subscribing to Hulu for a month. Might be time to visit the old library.
I did it! And it's all thanks to the books at my local library.
Pretend Fry was talking about DVDs here. It would be nice if the current streamers hosting the series could add the full-length direct-to-DVD movies as an option, but I'm sure they have different rights that are separate from the seasons. Then again, some of the Phineas and Ferb specials are available on Disney Plus, both split up into parts and as one extended episode, so maybe it's possible? The Hulu revival is confirmed to split up production season 8 into broadcast seasons 11 and 12, with Futurama likely being affected by the writer's strike, as it's covered by the WGA. Who knows what wacky ordering problems the new batches of episodes could face? We've come full circle.
All right, closure. Ow! Ow!
Shaking monster, Futurama, Futurama, it's shaking not stir, Futurama, Futurama, shaking not stir, shaking not stir, shaking not stir, Futurama.